5-year studies or 10-year studies on any new materials on how it would affect people. Would it be a carcinogen? Would that be bad? And there would be ways to analyze that.
Next question. Is NASA doing that now?
Not my department. I know they do a lot of materials research. Whether or not they do the research to the human element, like how is that going to affect people, I do not know.
Because if you could find that out, you know, that's
Okay. I have to see if I can find anybody I can talk to about that. That's like the Glenn Research Center, I think, would do stuff like that.
Yes. We've just recently become an urbanised planet. We're just like, when the more of the world population lives in an urban setting, if this like happened, you move to an abundance world, would you see the world revert into a more rural setting? And if so, how would that then affect transport? Like when I go on a train, instead of needing sort of like more of a vacuum one, need over 400 kilometres before it's viable, no acceleration needs.
Right.
So for a more rural world, we need more decentralised transport systems in a way.
Well, yeah, that's why you would have the other maglev train, the other version of it. So, like, one would be long distance between major cities across the planet.
But what I'm saying though, would there be any need then for major cities? So the role of the major cities bring people to go to work.
Oh, yes.
We don't need to work, we don't need major cities. So how would there be like millions of villages everywhere?
Okay, I see what you're saying. So what would there be cities? Because
You need the metropolitan.
I guess
It's your abundance world, so you don't need.
I would say well, yes, there would be, and here's why. The cities would be the regional production hubs. They would be your area that would be doing all the food manufacturing, all the product creation. It would be making all the TVs. Everything's localized. There's no more. This is produced in Japan and is shipped around the world. Every city produces. Every city has the blueprints and has the facilities to build its own needs of that technology of whatever that is. So it's all regional. So your cities are your hubs. Now, you're under no obligation to live in the city. The technology can go into the rural, so if you want to live in the woods a little bit, but still have the technological abundance, you might have to travel more to go and get the stuff at the distribution center. That's a choice you have to make. If you lived in the city directly, it's kind of at your fingertips. So, but that's decisions people make today. Do they want to live urban? Do they want to live metropolis? Do they want to live in the woods?
Okay, so you're like future world of abundance, and you'd be like you'd be like ancient Greece in a way, like lots of little city-states supporting their sort of catchment area,
right?
Rather than countries made up of cities. You know?
Right. Each city is its own government in a way. Yeah. There's no more national governments. There's definitely no global new world order nonsense. There's none of that either. I get attacked with that a lot. You want one world government? No, actually, I want no government. Well, at least not on that level. I want to reduce it. We're not communism. We're not socialism. We're not any ism that's ever been developed. Now, we might grab bits and pieces from certain political ideologies. I mean, we're grabbing the democracy bit. We want that part. There's good and bad in all the systems. But you also got to look at when old systems were developed. There wasn't the capability to do what we can do today. So they could only do it for their state or for their nation. They really couldn't do it for the world. And so there's a big hole in the capabilities there, whereas now we can. And so we grab the best bits and use technology to help cover the rest.
Do you think human emotion would be taken out of making the decision-making more?
Right, if you've got technology helping produce and create, you're no longer dependent upon politicians or other people with emotional bias, making this decision for you, that they might not even make a decision that you like. And statistics show, as the population gets more informed, you get a 50-50 split. Just look at America with the, Republicans and the Democrats. It's basically 50-50 down the nation. Think about flipping a coin. You flip a coin enough times, it ends up being a 50-50 split. Well, that's kind of where we've gotten to our political, we've stalemated now. We're now down to the 50-50 split on pretty much every issue. Because it's all opinion. I'm right, you're wrong, two sides, we're done. It's bipolar madness. And so, in order to get past that, you really do need to take people out of the loop and eliminate those biases on things that matter the most to existence, to the food, shelter, clothing, production of items and things of that nature. The only governance would be, I mean, I hesitate to say guilds or whatever, because it all depends on how it would come together. We still need to progress with the idea, but if you needed to build a bridge because there's a necessity, the engineers that would be responsible for that would find out, do you have the resources to pull that off? Is it available? Is it viable? Is it going to serve a positive need? There are statistical analysis to do that. It's not based on opinion, but it's based on data and fact. And then you arrive at a decision. You don't just make a decision. You arrive at one through proper analysis.
But don't you, as a scientist, believe that analysis and statistics can be manipulated to serve your own ends?
Yes, it can. And I would say that that is a byproduct of the system we live in now, not true science. Because think about, how do the scientists get their funding? They get their funding by promoting a certain viewpoint. So you can skew the data. That's why I laughed at that global warming debacle when some scientists were saying one thing and some were saying the other things. Well, of course they are. They're funded to say this, and they're funded to say that. So now get rid of that and be scientists. And stop being profit motivated. You know, they're motivated to say that because they have to pay the rent too. They got to feed their family. They're doing what they need to do to maintain their job, to live. Whereas if they could alleviate that from their mindset and be true scientists, they will arrive at the right answer and not a biased one because of some outside influence.
So what do you believe about global warming?
Turn off the camera. No. I don't necessarily believe that we have had such a large impact as we have been meant to believe. We still don't know a lot about the giant ball of flame in the sky and how it behaves and what it does. We've only been studying the sun for, what, 100 years maybe, and they did it way in earlier times where they kind of just noticed sunspots, but they didn't understand plasma dynamics of the solar rotating spheroid. Okay, so we don't know what we don't know about the sun, and it's been around a very long time, and we don't know what its cycles may be. We don't know if it has billion-year cycles because we're not around long enough. Our snapshot is so small. So how do we know that we're having such a major impact? Now, do I believe we are having an impact? Yes, you can see it, and that makes sense. But are we having this catastrophic, instantaneous after just a few hundred years of industrialization? I don't think so. That's just me. Yes?
I would say it's more planet deprivation, not global warming, that we're causing.
Planet deprivation.
Planet deprivation. That's what we're causing. Not global warming.
You mean depletion of resources?
But we still have to deal with the issue. I think that's
Yeah,
the issue. I think it's regardless of whether
Right.
we're doing it or not, we still have to deal with the issue.
Yeah,
And the
that's,
issue is not a question, is this, is not, what can we do to quickly change it?
Right.
That's what it's all about.
and that's why I don't even really get into the global
No,
warming
me too.
debate, because I'm like, you know what, whether we are or not, like personally, I believe we don't know enough about the sun to make a judgment that says, to influence political laws and stuff that force people to live a certain way. I don't think we have enough knowledge yet. Either way though, we still need to do everything we can to be as sustainable and clean as possible, to live on a clean, green, beautiful world. So irregardless of what the cause is, you know, even, it'd be interesting, if we did implement all of this and we were still going up, then what would the argument be? If the temperatures were still rising, then it would be a solar issue that we were arrogantly ignoring, thinking that we as humans are just the best thing ever, and oh, by the way, all of our bad stuff is destroying the planet. So, you know, there's a lot of ego involved, I think, in that topic. And so, I don't think it's a relevant topic. I think the relevant topic is be clean, do the right thing, as fast as you can possibly do it.
I don't think I gave a lecture actually at a previous conference about the global climate. No, not against it, but one thing that I said in it was whether it is the sun or other factors not being affected by humans, or whether it's carbon dioxide, at the end of the day, carbon dioxide does have an impact on the environment. That's scientific proven. So by putting carbon dioxide out, you're only making a problem worse. So if it is the sun that's causing the problem, then where you're making the problem worse by putting out carbon dioxide. So even if CO2 isn't the main problem, it's still a contributing factor. So therefore, shouldn't we try and control CO2? Because we can't control the solar system and the sun, but we can control CO2 emissions. So even if it's still only a minor part of the end result, shouldn't we still try to reduce it?
Right, we should try to control the variables that we can control.
And that's why I still think that CO2 should influence policy, even though it might not be the main thing behind the sun. Well, we'll say in global warming, we'll say hypothetically it is the sun. You know, CO2 isn't the main driving force behind it, that's the only variable we can control. So we should therefore still direct our policies to cutting CO2.
I'll buy that.
My personal take on it.
I'll buy that, and I'd go a step further to say if they're going to enact policies, they should enact policies that don't care about financial costs and just do what's right.
Yeah.
Good luck having that happen.
Yeah, that's one step at a time, you know.
I wanted to get back to the Venus project. I think the main part, as I see it, is that the person in this abundance world should feel it's enough. So because today our world is based on I should have more than my neighbor, then I'm successful. And here you have exactly the same, and this should be enough. So therefore, I see the main part of this is also should be elaborated educational system. How do you get to this human who is enough with what he has?
And that's a long-term process, yeah. I mean, one of the things that the Venus Project is trying to do is eventually build a test city of about 50,000 people. At least half of it, if maybe not a little more, mainly scientists and engineers, to basically tweak and work out the bugs of all the technical systems. But what we want to do is we want to prove what we're saying. The scientific method is what drives the whole concept of the Venus Project. It's the scientific method for social concern. We apply the scientific method to the invention of our great technologies, but we don't apply that same logic that has been so successful to our social systems. And what is that philosophy? You have an observation, you create a hypothesis or a theory, an idea on how to solve that problem, whatever that observation showed you, and then you do an experiment, get data, and analyze it, and then try to improve. The thing about science is never satisfied with its answers. It's always trying to poke a hole in itself. Talk about a lack of ego. We're always, gravity, we're always trying to punch at it to see if we can break it. Science is always trying to break what it thinks it knows so that it can advance even further. Or if nothing else, it'll spend its time constantly reinforcing what it says is true until it breaks. Then it modifies and changes. If we could conduct our society that way, where we observe, we run a hypothesis, we run an experiment, we create a solution set, and then we continue, we don't say, okay, that's good, and walk off. We continue to poke at it to try to make it better. Can you imagine how awesome this world would be if we use the scientific method for social concern? And so that's what we're basically driving at.
He's moving from hoarding to sharing.
Right.
That's what we do now, we hoard. We mustn't hoard anymore, we share.
Right. It's tea time, is it not? Yes. Okay. All right. Does anybody else?